that we need to get through. Oh no, but the players are already underway. So here we're looking at Travis Williams. They got started real quick. Travis Williams versus Garrick Alford. Both of these players behind Canfer and Connor Mullally. Both of them playing for their win and whoever loses this match deterministically not going to earn one of those end of season invites. So there's a lot on these line. A top 8 at this trial and the potential to punch the ticket to the end of the year Energy Championship. It's Rakdos Midrange versus Azorius Control. Devin, I talked a lot. It is your turn. Break down this matchup for me in the abstract. Who do you like and how is this going to play out?
So this is Rakdos Vampires. It says Rakdos Midrange, but there are vampires in Travis's deck list. This is kind of the Sorin, Vein Ripper, combination that we really saw break out at Pro Tour Murders of Karlov Manor, trying to set up a Sorin, put a Vein Ripper into play, and that can be extremely powerful against a blue-white control deck because you see cards like Get Lost in Garrick's hand. That's going to be no good because there are going to be no creatures in play to be able to pay the board cost of sacrifice a creature. As far as the matchup is concerned, I think it really depends on kind of like play draw and composition of deck list, like how many sweepers is Garrick on to be able to answer those rippers. Taking a look at Garrick's deck list, we are on 2 Sunfall, 2 Supreme Verdict, and 1 Farewell. So has a pretty high density of sweepers to be able to get that Vein Ripper off the battlefield, as we see a second copy of Thoughtseize trading for a Dovin's Veto. And Travis is really just trying to, take those counter spells out, pave the way for a Sorin, and we'll have to see if Travis does have the Sorin plus Vein Ripper combination.
Yeah, both these players very much just developing the mana right now. And those 2 copies of Thoughtseize very good in the matchup. Of course, looking for counter spells, trying to make sure that we can stick some of the Sorin Vein Ripper combo that this Vampires deck's known for. And we also have some of these creatures that get 2-for-1s. We're talking about the Dusk Legion Zealot that is entering the battlefield right now, drawing a card, looking for lands. He does find one. It's a copy of Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth as the 3rd land for Travis Williams as we go back to Garrick Alford, someone that we watched a little bit earlier today, getting the job done with his take on Azorius Control against, is it Phoenix? Now needs to get it done one more time over a leaderboard competitor, NRG series mainstay, Travis Williams, laying the beat down with Dusk Legion Zealot, holding up for mana.
Yeah, and Travis did pick up a copy of Vein Ripper for the turn, so has the ability to go for Soaring Vein Ripper. Now, both us and the Travis knows that there is a copy of Jwari Disruption in Garrick's hand, which is going to be a way to kind of get that, Sorin, because we have to tap out for it, we can't pay the additional mana to be able to do that. And then I think what Travis is doing instead is we're going to go Blood Tithe Harvester, discard Fatal Push, maybe try to find a land, set up for play land, and then play Sorin with 1 mana available to help pay for that Jwari Disruption. And Travis does not find the land there, but did pick up a copy of Duress. So we'll have to see where Garrick wants to go. Narset. Now, the last time we saw Garrick play, Narset was very, very good at stopping the Phoenix deck from drawing extra cards. But here, because the Blood Tithe Harvester is already on the battlefield, and Garrick kind of recognizes that the Narset's likely going to die anyways, just wants to get the impulse out of it to get the card no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, it does look actually okay here. It's going to soak up some damage that would otherwise be going face for Garrick, giving him a little bit more time and a card for his trouble, so it's not worth anything. And he still gets to hold up the Jwari Disruption that we know about. Now, a land draw here from Travis, which I don't believe he found, would allow for Duress into the Sorin, which could maybe punch through that Sorin Vein Ripper combination you were speaking towards. But he's had a lot of land troubles, even though he's used the Blood Tithe Harvester. Discard some otherwise dead cards like Fatal Push to try to find lands or other more useful spells. And I actually lied. He does have the Takenuma. It's hiding amongst his cards. He does have the 3rd land for the Sorin Vein Ripper if there's only 1 counterspell in hand.
Yeah, this is a really, really interesting thing that happened here. So Garrick picked up a copy of Verdict. If Garrick had let the Thoughtseize resolve, Travis would have seen a Verdict and a Jwari Disruption. Travis, say, maybe you take the Jwari Disruption to resolve the Sorin Vein Ripper, but then Garrick has the Supreme Verdict. But because the Get Lost was cast in the Blood Tithe Harvester, now Travis, okay, interesting. We're going to take the Teferi. I was going to say maybe you just take the Verdict and then slam the Sorin Vein Ripper. Travis choosing to take the Teferi instead and maybe just try and play a bit of a longer game.
Yeah, this is really interesting. So now that we're tapped out, the Jwari
Disruption
no longer matters. And yeah, we're using the Dusk Legion Zealot to finish off the Narset. So that leaves the Sorin behind. No creatures for the Supreme Verdict to pick up. No creatures in play to pressure Planeswalkers either, though. So that's why we ended up taking the Teferi. Don't want to give Garrick an opportunity to stick a Planeswalker on an otherwise creatureless board, which is, of course, typically a winning scenario for the control deck. And in fact, Travis is actually the only one here with a Planeswalker in this otherwise creatureless board. And yeah, back to Travis we go. Sorin not going after trying to put a Vein Ripper into play quite yet, although it starts to look a little bit more attractive if you can trade for maybe just a single Supreme Verdict with just your Vein Ripper. That could be a potentially good exchange for Travis. And I mean, something Garrick might just have to do. Like you mentioned, no creatures to sacrifice to pay ward. And we're going to commit a Bloodtithe Harvester as well here.
Yeah, interesting that Travis knows about the verdict and is just willing to commit the extra creature. Now, to be fair, the Vein Ripper will trigger whenever a creature dies. So if Garrick does cast the verdict, that's going to be 4 damage from the Vein Ripper, put Garrick down to 14. You still have the Sorin in play, you still have the Smuggler's Copter. But yeah, interesting that we're choosing to just kind of deploy all of the creatures here with the verdict being known information. So interesting to see. And Garrick picked up a copy of Memory Deluge, which is pretty good here because you can dig
Huge
for,
draw.
yeah, maybe dig for some other interaction on 6 lands. Just really needs that 7th land to be able to flash it back. Picked up another copy of Memory Deluge and Sunfall, which says, you know what, those Vein Ripper triggers, not today, son.
Yeah, no Vein Ripper triggers means they're exiled. Get a little 2/2 action for your trouble. Get to be a little bit more mana efficient as well, using the more expensive spell. And I think I saw another copy of Memory Deluge. So the top of the deck being very kind to Garrick so far. Will Travis have the same experience? We have a Sorin, we have a Smuggler's Copter, and a bunch of various artifacts. We have a Kalitas in hand to really maybe start to get things started, but not a lot else. How will Travis navigate the maps, the blood, the Sorin, and the Smuggler's Copter? So many different activated abilities and options you can use. We're going to start with the Kalitas, Traitor of Get.
Yep. So Kalitas going to crew the Copter, and then what's nice about this is you can have the ability to kind of rather than play the land and use the map token, we can just attack with the Copter, loot away that extra land, maybe try to find maybe another Vein Ripper, because honestly, at this point, we're not that far off of hardcasting Vein Ripper, because if you use the Sorin to put the Ripper in play, now that it's on 3 loyalty, you would just lose the Sorin. So, well, Travis just finds another land. That's going to be an attack for 3, put character into 15, and presumably will likely map post-combat.
Yeah, assuming that we are going to want to cast our Vein Rippers at some point, yeah, we're going to want to map, and we're going to map on the Smuggler's Copter, which finds Fable the Mirror Breaker, and we see Garrick the lean back there. Quite the reaction to Fable. One of the better cards in Travis's deck, and we talk a lot about how Phoenix is one of the best decks in the format. Fable the Mirror Breaker, very much the glue that glues together this Vampire's deck. I've heard it said that Fable the Mirror Breaker has won every single Pro Tour it has been legal in the format for, and that's quite an accomplishment. And we're actually going to make him shuffle this away. We're going to go after the Blood Crypt with the Field of Ruin, which is going to make the Fable of the Mirrorbreaker get shuffled away, and maybe Garrick won't have to answer it at all.
Yeah, and what I want to take a look at here is I want to look at the number of basics. So there are 2 swamps and 1 mountain in Travis's deck versus 3 Field of Ruins on the side of Garrick. So you'll notice there's 2 basics in play already, none in the graveyard. So if Garrick finds another Field of Ruin, maybe Travis draws a basic land before Garrick finds the Field of Ruin. There's a possibility that those Stone Rains could be online very, very quickly.
Yeah, that would be super problematic. To start to lose those lands. You mentioned Hardcast Vein Ripper, something that comes up, but here we go. We're discarding Sulphurous Springs to the Blood. I think that was a Dusk Legion Zealot. Didn't get to see too well, but would be actually a pretty good draw alongside the Sorin we still have in play here. As here comes the Dusk Legion Zealot. A fine draw, I'd say.
Yep, and that one can also do a couple of things. We can use it as fodder for the Sorin. We can use it, we can use the crew at the Copter. It can do a lot of stuff with it. So Copter is going to get crewed here, and we'll have to see. Garrick has, I believe, picked up a March of Otherworldly Light, which that's going to go after the Copter, and that was Travis's main threat. And remember, we still know about that Supreme Verdict. So just by the information that we know, that Supreme Verdict can still handle the Kalitas, and then Garrick is maybe just left over with those 2 Memory Deluges, and Travis doesn't really have a lot left.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the kind of spot I think that Garrick's trying to set up. Take care of these threats that are resilient to sweepers. We know there's a sweeper left over, and then punch that sweeper through and really start to stabilize this board. Travis, very, very low on resources. Now actually handless, has 6 mana, could hard cast a Vein Ripper, but not really a lot less to work with. And we know that Garrick, even though he's low on resources as well, has Memory Deluge in the graveyard. So that's a great way to get things started again and really start to overpower the Rakdos deck here in game 1. And it looks like, we're reaching for 4 mana very quickly, looking to potentially take care of all the creatures. And I think seeing this coming, Travis went ahead and upticked the Sorin, get a little bit of extra damage through, and in order to really get something for his trouble, is the Supreme Verdict going to trade 1-for-1 with Kalitas. Now we're going to flip our incubated Sunfall creature token, and that's going to deal 2 damage.
Funny enough, I think one of Travis's better draws at this point, given that there's no Field of Ruin, is just Mutavault, because you can go Mutavault, put a counter on it with Sorin. That can be a good blocker for the for the incubator, and it wasn't Beat Evolve, but it was Hive of the Eye Tyrant, which honestly not that bad either.
Yeah, and also get to do the trick with the map. We get to animate it right away, even though it is entered tap, and we get to go ahead and use the map token to try to control our draw a little bit. And we found a Blood Tithe Harvester that is going to stay on top as we take up Soren for no real value and pass back to Garrick. So Soren, not necessarily in danger of dying just to this Flip Phyrexian Incubator, but that Field of Ruin is a huge draw for the Hive of the Eye Tyrant.
Yeah, that Field of Ruin is a massive, massive draw step here for Garrick. He's going to fire it off main phase. I guess because we knew about the Blood Tithe Harvester. Interesting though, you could maybe just let Travis draw the Harvester. It's not clear how much you care about it because you can just kind of trade off the token for it. But yeah, interesting decision there for Garrick.
And if you find the last copy of Field of Ruin now, like you mentioned, all the basics are in place. So the next one is just a strip mine, but a lot of mana to work with for Travis. So not really clear how much that will actually matter as the Phyrexian Incubator token continues to do its attacking. And uptick on Soren now potentially can die to this Phyrexian. And now here we are to the real stabilization point for Garrick Alford, able to flash back Memory Deluge, showing the power of the 4-mana instant. Of course, looks at the top 7 now, doing a dig through time impression out of the graveyard. Just so powerful and really going to start to snowball the card advantage for Garrick Alford in this game 1. Things are very much slipping away for Travis here on the instep as we go into Garrick's next turn.
Yeah, and once you get the spot select, once you get to this stage of the game from the vampire side of things, you have basically nothing left over. Your opponent just, resolved a deluge from the graveyard, has another deluge in reserve. The Soren's going to die, and we don't like to call things before they're over, but it's getting to the point where I'm not quite sure what sequence of draws Travis would need to get out of this. I mean, it probably involves like multiple Vein Rippers resolving, but as we see that 3 steps ahead picked up, that is not going to be the case.
Yeah, 3 steps ahead, a huge draw. Here is a Blood Tithe Harvester, something to give a little bit of hope. Yeah, not even entertaining this. We're going to go ahead and full mode value here for the 3 steps ahead. So this is the typical 5-mana counter target spell. Then you can draw 2 cards, draw 3 cards, I believe discard 1. So this is kind of doing its Mystic Confluence impression that people have compared it to for 3 steps ahead. Draw 2 cards, discard a card. I was right the first time. See, I got myself all kinds of confused. As here is, I'm going to look at that one. The top mode, bottom mode, the most common picked counter target spell, only on cancel. But once you start doing cancel plus draw a card, as you see in that bottom mode, draw 2 cards, discard 1, you are kind of doing a Cryptic Command, Mana Confluence style impression. 5 mana, counter spell, do some drawing and some discarding. And if you are really flooded on mana, you can maybe get some copy stuff involved as well. Another Blood Tithe. Is this the 4th one? Third one, maybe.
I think it's at least the 3rd one. One might have been. Oh no, it was the 4th because I think the first one got exiled to the Sunfall. So, because there was that turn. There was that turn where Travis went, put the Vein Ripper into play Harvester. Emperor, I mean, this is
Wandering Emperor instead puts blocker into play. Yeah, here we go. The Wandering Emperor flash. That one's going to come in -1. That's deluge. How you know you're good. And why not? Another Memory Deluge. Keep the cards running. Found some lands. And you mentioned this game kind of dwindling its way towards over, and I think I still agree as we cycle a sensor, move a bunch of cards around, multiple planeswalkers in play, as well as multiple creatures in play for Travis. And here we are. We're going to go ahead and crack the blood now to get through the Narset in order to try to cash out that land.
We see an attack here from both. Travis deciding not to chump block, or not the trade, rather, excuse me. Emperor's going to make another token, and Garrick just kind of has everything you could ever ask for. You got the Field of Ruin to cover creature lands, you have both Hall of Storm Giants and the White Castle, and Travis is out of here.
Yeah, you've seen it enough. Memory Deluge to keep the cards running. Multiple Planeswalkers running as well. A convincing victory for Garrick Alford. Someone who's been very, very patient and very meticulous with this control deck. Gets the game on over the Vampires deck. And what I would say is a convincing victory. So with that, I mean, you expect that typically in a control versus a mid-range setup. The Vampires have some way to punk them out, but did draw a lot of the discards. So even despite a relatively good draw, was still lost the game. That's a tough spot to start from. Let's look and see what he has to work with in the sideboard to maybe improve the matchup a little bit. So again, you mentioned this is Rakdos midrange, but also actually just Rakdos Vampires, as you see the Vein Rippers and Sorens. In the sideboard, we have 4 copies of Leyline of the Void, 2 Path of Peril, 2 Reckoner Bankbuster, 1 Knight of Dusk Shadow, 1 Liliana of the Veil, 1 Go Blank, 1 Grafdigger's Cage, 1 Extinction Event, 1 Go for the Throat, and 1 Hostile Investigator. So pretty targeted with all these sideboard cards. What do you like in the control matchup?
So I like cards that say draw a card. So Reckoner, Bankbuster, Hostile Investigator. Liliana doesn't directly draw a card, but those are the ones that you're going to go for. Go Blank also sort of draws a card because you're making them lose cards, which is card advantage. So it effectively draws a card. So all those cards coming in and the Fatal Push is coming out. Probably a nice clean swap, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in, and then 4 push, maybe the Bitter Triumph out. So I think relatively clean sideboarding here for Travis.
Yeah, the creature removal spell is not very good. Notably, he has some main deck duresses to kind of hedge for this matchup and for the Phoenix matchup, I'm sure, a little bit. Drew some of them, still really wasn't enough. So going to have to back this up a little bit. And some of these cards, like you mentioned, these card advantage cards, going to be a big players here in game 2. Now for Garrick Alford, we've seen his sideboard before. We're going to take a look one more time as we have a very different matchup to sideboard now. And here we see 4 copies of Kutzel's Flanker, 3 copies of Mystical Dispute, 3 Regal Caracal, 2 Shark Typhoon, 2 Temporary Lockdown, and the companion, Kahira the Orphan Guard. How is sideboarding against Rakdos Vampires from Control?
So very similar to the Phoenix matchup that we saw earlier that Garrick played, you kind of expect your opponent to board out a lot of the removal spells. So you probably want to go towards the Regal Caracals and the Shark Typhoons, increase your threat density, especially against those discard spells. And those are both very, very good cards against Leon of the Veil as well.
Yeah, the Shark Typhoons, especially being able to the instant speed ambush, things like Liliana, I mean, that's going to be a big deal and potentially a massive player. As these players have already sideboarded quick magic. Both these players know that the control masters can get kind of grindy, so they're underway already. Tapped Restless Anchorage for Garrick and Hive of the Eye Tyrant Mutavault into Reckoner Bankbuster, one of the sideboard cards for Travis Williams.
Banned card in standard, and we see 2 mana left up here for Garrick, and Travis's hand looks like a whole bunch of lands, of Vein Ripper and a Dusk Legion Zealot. So, honestly, for Travis, yeah, I was just going to say, may not even want to play into the counter magic. You don't expect Dusk Legion Zealot to get countered, but, why even risk it? You can just draw a card with the Bankbuster this turn. Next turn, play your 4th land, cast the Dusk Legion Zealot, and still hold up the Bankbuster activation.
And that's exactly what we appear to be doing here from Travis Williams' side. We got to look at the Bankbuster you mentioned. Banned in standard, very, very ubiquitous in its time. I remember a lot of words on that card. Does a lot of things. And as we learned, I think from Fable the Mirror Breaker, the best. Eventually, when you put enough text on a card, it's going to be powerful, no matter really what the text is in the abstract. As here it goes, another draw from Bankbuster. This one on main phase.
Oh, that's so interesting. So Travis decided to leave up Mutavault with the leaving himself the option to attack with it, and unfortunately for Travis, drew the Bloodscythe Harvester. And I almost wonder if you had left up a different land, would you have preferred to cast the Harvester instead of attack with Mutavault? Not clear.
Definitely not clear. This exchange, though, good for Travis, actually. So getting the Bankbuster exiled when it's already drawn 2 cards, actually a really good spot, I think, for Travis. He really got card advantage. He got 2 cards off of it, traded for a card from Garrick, and now Garrick hitting the 4th land drop. Something like Memory Deluge is scary, but a lot of cards to work with for Travis. Very different shape from what we saw in game number 1. His Fable the Mirror Breaker, a pretty big pickup.
It's a good card. You can't really expect it to resolve here. You could test the waters a little bit, play the Dusk Legion Zealot, see if Garrick wants to fight over that. Maybe if that does resolve, then you go with a Harvester this turn, which also lets you play around the Jwari disruptions and sensors that you saw in game number 1. And Travis definitely has those on the mind. Picked up a copy of Go Blank. Might want to save that one until the turn after Garrick casts Deluge, right? So from Travis's perspective, you kind of don't want Garrick to use a counterspell here. You'd rather go land, play Harvester. Maybe Garrick uses the Memory Deluge, and then the next turn you have the Go Blank on, the Go Blank, ready to go for that Memory Deluge.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, if you can pick one to cast and resolve, which did you prefer, Go Blank or Fable the Mirror Breaker? But I actually really like what Travis has done here instead. Just kind of splitting the difference, not being as mana efficient this turn, but you can actually try to punch through both next turn with pressure already in play. So it's already kind of appealing to Garrick to try to maybe punch through a sweeper, take care of what's on the battlefield right now. Just get, trade 1-for-1 with the Bloodscythe Harvester, and you also get the Dusk Legion Zealot for your trouble. But then if that happens, you're passing to Travis with 6 mana, he gets to Go Blank and Fable. So you can't really do that. So you're in this weird mixture of taking damage from what's in play, and we are Supreme Verdicting right now. So there goes those cards, and those powerful 3-drops that Travis has access to now are opened up to potentially resolving.
Now we can resolve both of them. You asked which one would you rather resolve next turn. How about if I told you we could just resolve both of them?
Porque no los dos. We have the pathway already in hand. We have 2 pathways already in hand, discarding the Blackleaf Glyphs to the blood, cashing it out for a real card. And this is really the staying power of the Rakdos Vampires deck. What would otherwise be kind of a flooded draw with lands, now we get to start cashing those out. Things like Fable, things like the blood tokens, do a good job cashing out those extra lands. And then, of course, you have the utility lands as well. We're actually choosing to just play Vein Ripper on the tap out.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, you have the option to cast the 3 drops, but what instead of that? What instead if we just cast the Vein Ripper? It's very hard for Garrick to deal with. You're already down a Supreme Verdict. You know that he has limited number of sweepers, and I mean, I guess there is an Anchorage, so you could even say you could fire up the Anchorage and then get lost, sack the Anchorage, maybe something like that. But then you're getting a Stone Rain out of the removal spell as well, so you're probably happy with that exchange as well if you're Travis. But yeah, choosing to just go with the Vein Ripper, and I kind of like that because you want to save the Go Blank for the turn that there is a memory deluge in the graveyard anyways, and this is the most amount of pressure too, which is nice.
Yeah, just once again, keeping that pressure on, really forcing Garrick to try to find an answer to that. And then you have these aces in the hole, those powerful 3-mana cards. And of course, there's a chance they improve as well. You talk about when you want to play cards, well, is your spot getting better? There's so much hand hate in Travis's deck that there's a very real chance that your spot with these 3-drops actually gets better as the game goes on if you find a hand hate spell. And if you don't, well, like I said, you're still putting pressure on. And in this spot here, where the Vein Ripper is already something you have to answer, can Garrick start affording to go? Can he start to afford to go after these 3-drop spells and just take piles of damage from the Vein Ripper? And activating Gyreach Sanitarium has got to be a great sign for if you're a Travis fan.
Yeah, and Garrick going to go ahead and let that Fable resolve. And now, even if there is a sweeper found off the top, you'll notice that Travis still has the Fable of the Mirror Breaker in play, the Hive of the Eye Tyrant, and the Mutavault. So plenty of stuff left over, even if there is a sweeper. And I mean, still has a grip full of stuff too, grip full of action. You got the Go Blank, another Harvester, and I believe that might be a Dusk Legion Zealot. So plenty of action left over here for Travis.
Yeah, I think he was thinking about playing lands there versus respecting censor, because if you can play lands, discard them to Fable next turn, but you don't want to get censored. Going to go for the Go Blank, and actually instead of censored, gets no more lies. So that one's going to get exiled. As we go back to Garrick, now the card that's probably the best here is the one of Farewell. That can take care of the Fable enchantment as well as all the creatures in play without having to sacrifice anything or anything like that. So that would actually be a pretty good option here. It's Sunfall, which is the next best thing. We get to exile the Vein Ripper, exile that very powerful Goblin Shaman token, but the Fable is left behind, and that's a very relevant game object still, as Duress is the draw. A little late to the party, likely still good.
Yep, and it looks like Travis is going to go ahead and get rid of the Dust Legion in the land, finds a copy of Sorin and another discard spell. So it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to start with one of the discard spells to see exactly what Garrick is working with. Choosing to go with the Thoughtseize likely just in case Garrick has the Regal Caracal or something like that in the hand. And Garrick just has a Days Undoing in a couple of lands, so not a lot of action left over in Garrick's hand. Now, that being said, still has the White Castle, the Hall of the Storm Giants, the Gyreach Sanitarium, and the Anchorage. So plenty of stuff for Garrick to do with his mana.
You have to wonder how much Garrick was really looking for a Narset there. 3 copies in his deck, has the Sanitarium, had the Days Undoing, just really couldn't find a way to pair all that up. And now no spells left in hand. So the Duress is dead, but of course Travis can actually just discard it to the Blood token if he wants. Here comes Sorin, Imperious Blood Lord. We'll see what he wants to do with that, as joining the fray is the Blood Tithe Harvester. Going to make a blood token. We're going to pump up the Blood Tithe Harvester, it looks like. And so now we have 1 mana left over if we do want to crack the blood token to get rid of the Duress and get a real card for our trouble. You would want to do that. I mean, maybe if there's a Memory Deluge that ends up being main phase or something like that, that would be the time that you would really want to hold on to the Duress. And so you actually kind of get the option. Nice little piece of flexibility there from the blood token.
Yeah, and we'll have to see what Garrick finds off of the top of the deck. It looks like we're just going to go towards the Hall of the Storm. Just get it in there, What else?
Yeah, 7/7. What are you going to do about this, huh? All right, I may not have these spells, but I do have a 7/7 land. A large land it is indeed. So now we have the option to chump block or lose Sorin. And we know the last card in hand is Duress. Nothing else we can really do about that. Choosing to lose Sorin.
I kind of like this because, I mean, you have a 4/3 in play. You also have the Hive and the Mutavault. So you could even just get into a position where you say, okay, my Sorin's dead. Fire up the Hive, fire up the Mutavault, hit for 9, put Garrick to 3. And even if Garrick finds, I mean, the Wraths probably don't do it because the 2 creature lands are still there. A single removal spell is not going to do it because the Fable stays in play. So this is Travis kind of, fighting on all angles here, and a Liliana off the top as well.
The draws are definitely flowing here for Travis Williams. And yeah, not surprised to see an edict that actually clears the way for the Mutavault to attack if Travis wants to. Yeah, I think it looks like he does. He's reaching for the mana with the Mutavault, trying to figure out how best to animate this. But yeah, like you said, really, I think there's a lot of pressure for Travis to get the game over with before Garrick starts to snowball some card advantage back into this game. He has plenty of mana. He has some good utility lands, but what he doesn't have necessarily is time. If you can put some pressure on his life total, and Liliana sacrificing that Phyrexian token doesn't feel great, but gets all the garbage out of the way so you can start attacking, like you said. Down to 6 goes Garrick Alford. Big draw step here. Needs to be good.
Yeah, and Travis playing the Liliana of the Veil didn't get to push the full 9 damage, but the six damage is still a 2-turn clock with Garrick at 12, so it doesn't actually change the math too much. Not a bad. You see Travis sit back in his seat. That's not a bad draw step here for Garrick. Now the question is it good enough? Because you somehow, I guess, you can tuck the Blood Tithe Harvester. No, if you tuck the Blood Tithe Harvester, you still have the Hive, the Mutavault, and the Fable. So I think Garrick may have pointed towards the Fable. We're still thinking here. I don't know that there's depending on what the leftovers are in Garrick's hand, I don't know if there's a way to survive this turn. I guess you can block with the Anchorage.
Right. So yeah, you can. Well, yeah, you got a few problems because you play a land, you could block with the Anchorage, but yeah, if you don't get rid of the Fable, we could just actually animate the Hive and then make a copy of the Hive. Those are menace attackers, so you're just dead. So the best hit is the Fable, right?
So Fable Hive doesn't quite work like that. Where if you animate the Hive and make a copy, it just gives you a land.
Oh, it's just a land. Sick.
Yeah, but you can still copy the Harvester in that regard. So I guess unless you target the Harvester. So
yeah, you target the Harvester, then there's theoretically no targets, but now there's like this attacker. I don't know. Interesting to think about.
Even here, Travis is still not in that bad of a spot. You can just say, even if you wanted to, you get the last card out of Garrett.
Last card is Wandering Emperor?
Well,
oh my goodness. Well, that's worth 2 life. And now, very smartly choosing to take up Liliana before combat means that Travis gets to know about it. Ooh. Now, what can he do about it?
We got a game, Drake.
We do have a game. Some great top decks here from Garrick Alford as we discard the last card. It's another Fable off the top. Wait, no, it's the same Fable. It's the Fable that we worked to from the tuck. We actually used the blood token, right?
Teferi was third from the top. Yeah, if Teferi's third from top, right?
Checking.
It's been a minute.
That would be second card. Yeah, blood's okay. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, we just
another
have
Fable below it, right?
All right, yeah, I guess that's what has to be true. All right, so we got Fable coming. We have Fable now, and here comes Mutavault and Blood Tithe Harvester. So we're gonna make a 2/2. That can trade with the Mutavault. Well, no, we're actually just going to exile the Harvester, get some life. So yeah, we want the life here, and Mutavault's going to crash in for 2. We're going to get some life, and this Fable of the Mirror Breaker is the follow-up with another one coming on top that we know about. Good draw so far. Can it keep coming? Teferi's going to help.
Yeah, and I like this. I like this play from Travis. You kind of force the Wandering Emperor on the Blood Tithe Harvester, which also notably means that if there's a sweeper off the top for Garrick, you're losing a little bit less, right? You get to keep the Mutavault and the Hive, so you have a lot of insurance against a top deck Supreme Verdict or Sunfall. Okay, that's only going to answer the token.
Yeah, it's a 1-for-1. There's a Field of Ruin though. That's great
huge
draw. Wow. And so we're going back and forth. Garrick Alford looking like he might find a way to stabilize. Now there's a double Fable on top of Travis's library. And now Liliana Edict is dialed up once again. So any tokens made have the potential to be edicted away. We're going to put Kahira into play and then put a counter on it. But Liliana can edict that one out the way. At 6 life is Garrick untapping 2 lands, which allows a Field of Ruin to happen.
Yeah, the thing is, even if the Liliana takes care of the Kahira, that means that Garrick has now answered the Liliana, so he doesn't have to worry about it on future turns. So you say Liliana down to kill the Kahira, Field of Ruin can take care of the Hive. That's only a 2/2 Mutavault left over, which Garrick has 2 very, very good Planeswalkers, and Travis has to decide which one he wants to kill with the Mutavault. The other question is, if Travis just says, okay, I'm going to go Liliana Edict you, animate both of my lands, attack you with both, Garrick might also just not even activate because you can just hold. This is a really tricky spot. I almost feel like if you're Travis, you maybe have to ignore the Planeswalkers here. Maybe you go just fire up Mutavault. Maybe the Mutavault goes after the Emperor, and then you resolve the second Fable. This is a tricky spot.
We need the answers to these Planeswalkers. We have to go to the Planeswalkers. Now, the field gets whatever you want, right? The field is going to go ahead and take care of stuff. But, we've seen Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, for years at this point. This card's been out a long time. It gives a Jace the Mind Sculptor style effect, where if you untap with it, things really just start to get worse. And so really getting those off the battlefield seemed like a major priority. Travis, of course, not really able to do so and deploy a second Fable. Going to prioritize getting the second Fable in play, but things are really starting to slip for number 11 on our leaderboard, Travis Williams. Now remember, these players both looking for that the end of season ticket to the Energy Championship. Of course, Garrick Alford, number 9 on the leaderboard. Travis Williams, number 11 on the leaderboard. Whoever loses this match not only is not going to make top 8, but also is not going to punch their end of season ticket to the Energy Championship. So there's a lot on the line for these players, as Garrick, like I said, looks to be continuing to maybe claw his way back into this game. I mean, it looked hopeless for him, but a timely Field of Ruin, a timely Wandering Emperor, and now Teferi starting to run away with the game look to be making a big difference. Activating Castle Ardenvale main phase.
Yeah, Drake. You know what? We're gonna untap that Castle Ardenvale, and we're gonna make another 1/1. We are now in that stage of the game where we can activate Castle twice per turn with the Teferi, and I like that because it's going to give Garrick a near infinite number of chump blockers, and not only chump blockers, but make sure you have an actual reasonable double block on the Hive, because now you have a 2/2 and a 1/1 that can double block it, and you still leave an extra 1/1 around to be able to chump block that 2/2 Goblin Shaman token. So, we thought that Travis was in a commanding position, but a couple of top decks away, and now Garrick looks like we have potentially regained a lot of the momentum in this match.
Yeah, I mean, this is an incredible kind of flip of the switch here. And this is part of I'd say the appeal of the Azorius control deck. And, Garrick Alford, when we interviewed him, mentioned he really wanted to play this deck because it was fun. And moments like these are really fun. Just hanging on by that thread. You see his teammate there, Team Flex Slot, supporting him in the back. He found a copy of 3 Steps Ahead. Oh, no. So we are doing the extremely rare full power 3 steps ahead. All 3 steps are ahead. We are countering Reckoner Bankbuster. We are drawing 2 cards to discarding a card, and we are making a copy of the 2/2 Samurai with Vigilance. Just one of the better draws he could possibly have, especially against Reckoner Bankbuster. And now things have really turned on their head for Travis Williams, who was really looking to stick that Bankbuster and kind of push things over the line with those last few cards. Now doesn't have access to that, as here comes Hive the Eye Tyrant, which can pretty easily be blocked by all the blockers in play. Goblin Shaman coming as well, making a treasure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can force a double block from Garrick, but it's not even a profitable double block because now Garrick has the second 2/2 from the 3 steps ahead. So you can even say put 2 2/2s in front of the Hive, maybe chump block the 1/1 token. Or I guess this is the same thing where you're just trading for everything. Trade for everything, and Travis now has no creature lands, only has 2 copies of Fable, which, I mean, Fable is a good card, but presuming that Garrick can find an answer to one of them, not going to be able to set up the kind of the Fable combo as we like to call it. Now, I guess the one thing is, if Garrick does not find the answer, Travis is going to flip that second Fable and does have the option of potentially setting up that Splinter Twin-esque combo. So maybe that's Travis's only shot at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that Garrick's aware of that. Double Fable, I think, pretty well renowned at this point for its ability to make a bunch of 2/2s, keep them around, and then attack for basically as much mana as you have as 2/2s. But it's Regal Caracal a draw. This one can do some damage as far as gaining some life goes. Didn't get a great look at the leftovers, keeping it close to the chest, but here we go. We have a 5-mana 3/3. Other cats you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink. And then when it enters the battlefield, of course, you create 2 1/1 creature tokens with lifelink. So even if the Regal Caracal dies, the creatures will still have lifelink, as the trifecta is complete. Narset Parter of Veils joining the mix as well. So lifelink abound with these 3/3s, except, of course, the Caracal itself. So some lifelinking tokens that are buffed up, going to be good against potential attackers. Now let's look at what we found off the Narset minus. Dovin's Veto.
Yeah, and I think there might be an Odawara in Garrick's hand that could potentially bounce one of the Fable tokens to stop the double Fable, and I think that's exactly what's going on. Yep, so Fable's going to go ahead, or Odawara's going to bounce that Fable, rather. It's going to give Travis another 2/2, but I don't think Garrick cares too much about the 2/2 at this point. His board is just so wide, and yeah, I mean, outside of specifically Vein Ripper, I'm not seeing a ton else that Travis could really draw to get himself out of this game. Like Vein Ripper potentially could allow you to have a good, an attack, maybe prevents Garrick from attacking because the dice triggers on Vein Ripper, but there's not a lot left for Travis here. Does pick up a Harvester, which can be decent in combination with that Fable.
Yeah, the other Fable, of course, flipping, and the one we just bounced. Normally not very good to bounce Fable, because, of course, you get another Goblin Shaman in the face of the Regal Caracal and all the life to be gained there, and all these Planeswalkers, definitely less powerful than just assembling that, as you mentioned, Splinter Twin-esque double Fable combo, as we're going digging with Narset again after the draw step, and now we get to start activating all our Planeswalkers every turn. We get a lot of options here. Another copy of the Wandering Emperor added to hand to match the one we have now, which, of course, can give us another downtick if something like the Fable combo starts to become relevant. But we're going to go ahead and tuck for the second time. We're going to tuck
just to make
the
sure.
Fable, the Mirror Breakers, the third card. Get these out of here. These Planeswalkers doing a good job managing those.
Yeah, we just want to make extra clear that there's nothing that Travis can possibly draw at this point. I was going to say that maybe Travis's only shot was like draw Vein Ripper, use the Fable to copy the Vein Ripper, give it haste, and maybe can push a lethal attack. But yeah, now without the Fable in play, even a top deck Vein Ripper is not going to quite do as much as Travis needs it to do because it can't attack that turn. Travis also taking a massive hit here, and Garrick's going to gain a ton of life to be able to help stabilize.
Yeah, I mean, this life is, I can't really understate how much that is important. Over and over again, over these draw steps, Travis has really been looking for a way to cross the finish line before Garrick could really start to snowball the game in his favor, as he's really kind of already turned the corner with the power of all these Planeswalkers. Now with this massive life-linking attack from the Regal Caracal, that gets even more, oh no. Yeah, okay.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
We're just locked out of the draw
We're
step.
just locked. Yeah, we're locked out. And Travis understands that. And the hand is extended. I didn't even see that. The guy reached Sanitarium plus the Narset locks the game up. Nothing you can even do. And deterministic win for Garrick Alford. A 2-0 victory over the Rakdos Vampires. First time we've seen it on camera. And so Feld to Azorius Control. So joining our top 8 is going to be Garrick Alford. His take on Azorius Control live still for an end of season invite to the NRG Championship. Fought hard for it. Mentioned earlier he played his Azorius Control in order to try to just have a little bit more fun and try to, really finish the season out right. And what a rewarding performance for him in that regard.
Yeah, congratulations to Garrick. Like you said, we were taking a look at the end of season leaderboard, and presumably this locks up a top 8 for Garrick, and he might even be able to go a little bit deeper and potentially lock up his shot at the end of year championships. And he's been playing phenomenally every time we've seen him on camera. He's been playing very, very well, knows this control deck inside and out, knows exactly when to sequence threats properly, knows exactly when to just turn the corner, and it's just been an absolute masterclass of somebody who knows the deck inside it out like Garrick does.
Yeah, exactly. He mentioned earlier we've interviewed him before. I believe we're actually going to interview him again, and I want to talk quite a bit about this matchup because Travis Williams, a fellow NRG Series mainstay, again number 11 on our leaderboard, and unfortunately for him, dead for top 8, and unfortunately as well, dead for the end of year championship invite this season. Now still alive for the overall, so it's not hopeless or anything like that. But things are a lot worse. And Garrick, congratulations! What a performance! Here you are again in the interview booth with your Azorius Control deck.
How's it going, guys? How's it going?
Good.
It's going very well. Probably better for you. So talk to me a little bit about going to this match. You mentioned you played Azorius Control because you wanted to have fun at the end of this season. And here you are. I believe you've locked up top 8 and against number 11 on our leaderboard, Travis Williams, an important match for you to win. Talk to me about that and what it feels like.
It feels good. It feels good. That matchup was very tough. I had to dodge some Vein Rippers and some triggers and hopefully just draw right. It was great. It was a great game. Great player, of course. It was fun to play.
Yeah, and we were talking about the matchup specifically as well. There's, this has been a matchup that has really been showcased over the course of the past couple of months, ever since Pro Tour Karlov Manor. And as far as, are you comfortable playing against the Vampires deck? Is that a matchup you want to play against a lot?
It wouldn't be my first pick. I would rather play Phoenix if I had to pick one. But the cats do help. The cats help a ton. Caracal just takes it. I mean, I know Vein Ripper flies, but putting 7 power into play with lifelink is huge. And then next turn you can go Kihira and give them all vigilance. You're just like, let's race. Let's see who wins.
Yeah, it's a ton of power. I mean, it looked incredible there when you drew it. It was back to back to back, just great draw steps to get you out of what looked to be an incredibly precarious position. I mean, when you lost that Days Undoing, you had only lands in hand and were facing down lethal, I believe, over 2 turns and managed to claw your way back thanks to the Wandering Emperor and some timely counter magic. I mean, talk to me about all this. So more importantly, actually, when you're going into this matchup, did you know what each other's playing? Because, I mean, Travis Williams had a great game 1 hand, I'd say. Multiple discard spells, including a duress, trying to punch through his cards. Did you know the matchup going in?
I did not know the matchup. I kind of figured it was I just kept a hand that was decent against a bunch of things, but luckily it paired out. To me, the coolest thing that happened was I was able to. I've never done this before, but I was able to do all 3 levels on 3 steps ahead. That was sick. I've never done that before. That was a one-time thing that ever happened. So it's cool to get that on camera. That was cool.
That was awesome. And that's something we get to see very often. And, hopefully we get to see more of it. Like I said, now you're very likely to be in top 8, very likely to see more of you and your 3 steps ahead in the future rounds. Now, once again, we got to cut this one short because we have a top 8 to play. You have a top 8 to play. We have a top 8 to cover. And so any final shout outs, anything you want to say before you prepare for all that?
Apparently, my last shout out, my ride was upset that I didn't shout them out for driving 6 hours. So I guess I got to redo that. So shout out to Sam. He's also on Team Flexot. The homie. He's great. I always talk to him about deck choices late at night, and he rolls his eyes. It's control. What do you need? Why do you need help with? But shout out to him. He's a real MVP. My bad.
Nice.
Well, we got that covered now. And of course, what a great performance from you. What a great performance from Team Flexlot. And like I said, we'll be seeing more of you very shortly. But until then, good luck. And we'll see you shortly. Congratulations.
Take it easy, guys.
Alrighty. Well, that does it for our last round of Swiss. So when we come back, actually, I think, no, we actually do have our backup feature. So we are going to watch May French, who is also playing a win and in, versus Lucas Parson against playing Gruul Vehicle. So we've seen May French in her Mono Green Devotion deck before, and Lucas Parson, I believe this is our first time today watching him. And like I said, he's playing Gruul Vehicles, 2 green decks, starting with elves, doing very different things. Doom, Gruul Vehicles has been around for a while. Good green matchup?
Depends. Let me look at the specific list for Lucas. So this is, okay, it's pretty traditional stuff. Yeah, Huntsman's Redemption. The main card here is 3 copies of the Akroan War. This is a phenomenal card in a matchup like this because May is all about, just like you see here, elf into giant creature. And if Lucas can follow up and say, land Akroan War, steal that troll, you can give it haste from the Stormseeker, and it could just be a position where May is just taking way too much damage. And also, importantly, the Akroan War removes devotion from May's side of the battlefield. So I think traditionally speaking, I like the Gruul side of things, but May's deck has the capability of getting a boatload of mana very, very quickly. There's some interesting card choices here for Lucas too. There's like 1 copy of Thought-Knot Seer in the deck. There's 1 Ferocidon in the main deck. I think this is part of this kind of Huntsman's Redemption tutor package, which it looks very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, 4 copies of Huntsman Redemption, an interesting development from Wilds of Eldraine, a rare from that set, able to go tutoring for various different creatures, and of course, get some more pressure through on that 3rd chapter, as here comes Essica's Chariot, not the 4-drop Akroan War, like you mentioned, that would be really, really good against the Old Growth Troll here, but something similarly powerful, able to create your Essica's Chariot, crew it right away, and then give it that 5th point of power in haste, and get attacking, makes it line up kind of awkwardly against this Old Growth Troll, while still making tokens. Get a look at the very powerful rare from Kaldheim there, the vehicle that makes 2 cats, and of course makes a 3rd cat when it attacks, or a better token if you got one.
What's really funny about this board state too? If you take a look at May's lands, she has 2 copies of Lair of the Hydra. I don't know if we can get the text on Old Growth Troll up for the
no,
folks
is
at
it
home,
forest?
but you have to enchant a forest with Old Growth Troll, and last time I checked, Lair of the Hydra, not a forest.
Yeah, that's correct. And you get a look there. 4/4 trample, 3 green pips, and if it dies, if it was a creature, return to the battlefield, or an enchantment, enchant forest. So yeah, that one doesn't get to enchant anything. Is Boseiju, who endures, the 3rd land for May, again not a forest. Uvenwald Oddity committed to the board with the help of the Elvish Mystic. Now, of course, the Essica's Chariot did get felled in trading with the Old Gold Troll, but here's another one for Lucas Parson, and now we get to make the same play if we want with a pile of tokens. So we have 3 tokens that can attack, 2 that can't, and now it might be time to get everybody involved in combat. Let's take a quick look. Yeah, everybody.
Stormseeker too, because honestly, if May blocks the Stormseeker, she's taking 6, 11, 12, going to 5. You don't even really care if she does that. And if she blocks the Chariot, it's a trade there. So this is a really, really rough position for May, no matter what, whether she eats the Stormseeker or trades for the Chariot. She is going to go for the Stormseeker. That's going to deal, I believe, 12 damage, 6, 7, 12. And May's down to 5. Lucas has 6 2/2s in play. And it's going to be very, very difficult for May to get out of this, as she top decked the forest, but a little too late for that Old Growth Troll.
very late to the party. 2 blockers for May right now. Now, of course, the Ulven Oddity, a great blocker, but Lucas very much found a way to go wide. We have a copy of Mutavault we can get busy in combat with next turn. So we have Llanowar Elves, 6 total tokens, and Mutavault. That's a lot to block with only 2 blockers for May right now. And some ways to gain life or produce additional blockers needs to be part of the equation. Here's 5 mana. It's a Cavalier of Thorns. You can go looking for another land. There's the Nykthos. Maybe a little late to the party, but we'll see. And of course, Lucas Parson looking to do quite a massive attack next turn. Eska's Chariot still available to get involved in combat as well. Really the only 4 of vehicle for this vehicles deck, and more or less the face of the vehicles deck. There are some others. We've got a couple copies of Copter, 1 copies of Sky Sovereign, but Eska's Chariot really the most powerful vehicle of the bunch. And here comes a massive crunch, and that looks like it's going to be lethal there for Lucas Parson, really able to get aggressive and get May dead before she can even get started.
Yeah, and I mean, there was kind of an unfortunate mana draw there for May. I think if she had drawn a forest and was able to offer the trade of the Old Growth Troll for that Chariot and get the Old Growth Troll back into play, maybe it would have been a different game. But yeah, unfortunately, the mono green deck does not always draw a forest.
Yeah, we saw that manifest there. Now, I don't believe we have sideboards. This is our backup feature, so we're going to jump straight into game number 2. We can talk a little bit about sideboarding, I guess, in game if we want. I see a lot of pick your poisons involved in the Gruul Vehicles sideboard. Not great, but other than that, a bunch of one-ofs. Not sure how much, probably a little bit of removal spells maybe changed in that manner, and some pick your poisons maybe for the artifacts as well from May's side. So pick your poison, potentially a good option for both these decks. Beyond that, a couple removal spells, a couple changes of that nature, but we're going to continue this show as we're sideboard as both players here ready to go here for game 3 in our backup feature match. So here we go. Going to start things off with 2 ley lines is May French, Sunken Citadel, and the follow-up as well.
Yeah, and the Citadel on turn 1. So if she has the Nykthos, that's just 8 mana on turn 2. And of course, the Nykthos is there. Now, does she have another payoff? I saw a forest. I think the rest of the hand might just be a couple of lands here. So maybe doesn't have anything besides the troll to be able to cast. One thing that I just kind of wanted to bring up here, Pick Your Poison is a card we see in a lot of these sideboards, as we see a copy in May's hand. And this is such a great printing. It hits so many different archetypes and is very, very versatile. And we see Besechu take care of the Nykthos. That's going to cut a lot of mana production there for May.
Yeah, and there you go. Pick your poison up on the screen. The common for Murder's Call of Mana, really kind of an edict, but in a naturalized shape. You're able to sacrifice artifacts, enchantments, or creatures with flying. Naturalized, plummet, all that stuff. And then 1 mana edict, very, very powerful, both in this format and in Modern. But Besechu Who Endures, going after the Nykthos, really stymieing some of the mana development, and in a way, actually invalidating the ley lines of the Guild Pact. You mentioned they don't really do a lot outside of specifically the interactions with Nykthos. So with the Nykthos out of the equation, that's more or less kind of 2 cards from May's side that are invalidated. And when her payoff was only an Old Growth Troll, she was very much just kind of priming herself to draw well, right? She's priming herself to draw some really good things off the top. Besechu now means that even those cards may not be good enough, as here's the Crowan War to steal Old Growth Troll.
Boy. Yeah, and I think May has a couple of sideboard cards in her hand. We talked about the Pick Your Poison earlier, and I think the card she picked up last turn was a copy of Tail Swipe. So, maybe drawing a couple too many sideboard cards here. We see Kiora, so likely going to go untap land and then Pick Your Poison to make Lucas sacrifice the Crowan War to get back that Old Growth Troll. Unless maybe I was mistaken. There might not be a Pick Your Poison in May's hand.
That might just be a tail swipe. I mean, I can't get a great look at her hand. I think I did see a tail swipe like you mentioned, but I have not seen a Pick Your Poison. But if we do have one, I mean, we've got to do it here, right? Edict that enchantment away. Otherwise, you're taking just million damage, as the Crowan War does go to chapter 2 here. And you mentioned that as one of the key cards here against the mono green deck. I think we're seeing that manifest worth quite a bit of damage and a ton of leftovers here for Lucas Parson. Not a ton of mana to work with, but seems to have enough as the Huntsman Redemption, the powerful enchantment saga from the Wilds of Eldraine set, joins the other saga. It's called Gruul Vehicles. It should be called Gruul Sagas. So we have 2 of those, making a 3/3 beast very quickly and attacking the Kiora with the Old Growth Troll. There's the Huntsman Redemption, makes a 3/3 beast. Then you get to sacrifice a creature. If you do, search library for a creature or basic land, reveal it, put it in your hand. And then that final mode, actually very, very relevant here, up to 2 creatures, +2/+2, and trample. So going to do a good job getting through any blockers May can produce over the next couple turns. Only 2 cards in hand, May under a lot of pressure.
And what's very, very important about this specific saga and the interaction is you can stack the triggers the way you want to. So you can actually put the Huntsman's Redemption on the stack before the Acroan War. So you resolve the Huntsman's Redemption, sacrifice a creature before you give the creature back to May. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Old Growth Troll says enchant land you control. So again, Lucas doesn't have a forest currently, but if he did, he'd be able to put the troll back under his control. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and sacrifice the troll to the Huntsman's Redemption, get a creature off of that, and then we can, Lucas can go ahead and search for whatever he so chooses.
Yeah, I believe you're correct. So this would not go onto May's land. This would go onto Lucas's land if he had one. However, like you said, no forest here, and Thought Not Seer is going to be defined. Yeah,
not just for Modern.
Yeah, exactly. Eldrazi having quite a resurgence in Modern. Well, maybe a little bit here as a one of. And you mentioned the toolbox kind of for Lucas Parson. And yeah, look at Thought Not Seer. The rare from Oath of the Gatewatch broke Modern in half at the Oath of the Gatewatch Pro Tour. Now making, I guess, its debut here and in Pioneer. I don't know. I haven't seen it in any other decks. Going to take care of the Overwhelmed Oddity. Just a tail swipe left over for May. No creatures to pair with it. And a second tail swipe is drawn. Not what she wants to see at all as her life total continues to dwindle. Thought Not Seer did a very, very timely job there. In Huntsman Redemption, about to, yeah, here we go. She's got to read that third chapter. A bunch more damage coming across next turn as soon as that resolves, if everything stays in play as is. And here we go, animating the Lair of the Hydra. Now we're going to tail swipe the Dork, which is going to cut some of the mana and some of the damage off. Then we're going to go ahead and attack and trade for the Thought Not Seer. So the land goes away, it takes both tail swipes, but Lucas, no creatures to pump with Huntsman Redemption.
Well, no creatures to pump, but if Lucas wanted to, and he had a chariot anyways, I was going to say what Lucas could have done there is stop on draw step, and in draw phase animate the Mutavault, and then chapter 3 of the Redemption target the Mutavault because the saga triggers in main phase, but because Lucas had the chariot to play, doesn't really care about that anyways. As we see a Megalaws entering the field here, that one enters with a lot of oil counters. Don't think that the oil counters are going to matter here. Could pop the Leyline of the Guild Packs if he wanted to, but it probably doesn't matter. And it looks like, May is done.
Wow, what a convincing victory for Lucas Parson. You mentioned you kind of like the Gruul Vehicle side with all those copies of the Acroan War, and what a performance from that. So Lucas Parson now going to advance, very likely to make our top cut in May French. Well, we won't be seeing any more of her. I do not believe in the rest of this tournament, but a great run nonetheless. Like I said, already punched her ticket, so even though she's high on the leaderboard, doesn't need to sweat it out as far as her end of the year championship invite. She already has that from winning a showdown, so a great run from her, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more of her in Season 2. Now, with that does complete our 7th and final round of Swiss at the Pioneer 5K trial here in St. Louis. So with that, we're going to be taking a very quick break and then coming back to you with the top 8 very, very shortly. Do not go anywhere.